This is Scale Her Up, the podcast for female-led businesses ready to grow to 7 figures and beyond. I'm Dr. Brenda Hector. I'm a business coach and a champion for women in business. I'm on a mission to change the statistics and help more women scale successfully. Each week, we share real stories, tools, and tactics to help you build a business that supports the life you want. Follow the show and come and join our Scale Her Up Facebook community because you don't have to do this on your own. And I'm not on my own today. Of course, I've got a guest. I'm delighted to have Fiona Purves, who is the owner of Defacto FD. Fiona, thank you very much for joining me on the show.
Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So we'll start with Defacto FD. What is it that you do there? What's the problem you solve for your customers?
So it's one of those sort of bronze seal, it says it on the tin type of moments. We are a chartered accountancy practice, so we do cover all the basics from accounts to bookkeeping, VAT, payroll, tax advice, tax planning. But my background is such that I actually ran out of practice because it wasn't for me. I didn't like it. It wasn't me. Spent a number of years in industry, working with SMEs, doing a lot of division setups, working all over Europe, setting up offices where there literally was starting with a salesman and an admin person. And what all of that taught me was that if you're starting up a business, you don't start up with that fully functioning finance department. You've got yourself, one PC, a laptop, and a coffee machine. And you're trying to be all things to all people. You're the salesperson, the marketeer. So after a number of years in industry, I had been made redundant due to business relocation and sale. And I decided that I was going to do interim FD work, financial director work, take all those skills from industry and go out and help small businesses who maybe only needed a little bit of my time. And I did lots of nodding and I got lots of phone calls from people that I'd worked with in business. And before I knew it, I literally had practice. And at that point in time, it needed a name. And that was where Defacto FD came around, which was Latin. I do have to spell it quite a lot, so maybe wasn't that brilliant a choice. But de facto, effective or reality, FD, it's now evolved into financial director or finance department. And the ethos behind it is to bring to small businesses, not just that once a year statutory position where you've gone through the year, 6 to 9 months after your year end, you get a set of accounts and a tax bill. It's to actually say to them, as you're growing your business, if we could give you back 3 hours of bookkeeping time, how many more sales could you make? What would your strategy work on? Being able for them to see the value in having a de facto finance department. It takes away the employment issues because they don't need to try and recruit somebody who they maybe don't quite know the skill set that's required. It can be scaled up and down with the business. So it might be at the beginning, as I say, you need 2 hours of a bookkeeper, half an hour a month of a VAT person, somebody to process the payroll, and an accountant to go through your figures with you once a quarter, once every 6 months. But as your business grows, without having to take on any more staff, without having to put a full-time headcount on for what might be a part-time job, you get to have all the things that a big business has. You can actually have a finance director, you can have a credit controller. And so that in its simplest essence is what Defacto FD is about. And it works on the basis of your audience being Scale Her Up. It really is why I wanted to speak to you today and why I was delighted with the invite, is it really fits in with the struggles that new business owners have, because they're either trying to become experts in all things finance, which I'm 20 plus years into this, maybe slightly actually, that maybe I'm now 30 plus years into this. And I still learn every single day. because the rules change, how we do things change. And the thought of not being a finance person and doing that within a new business that I'm also trying to grow and build, that would just make me stressed and
Absolutely.
fearful that I was getting it right or wrong. So yes, that's how Defacto FD evolved. It was about taking all that industry-based knowledge where you can just walk along the corridor and stick your head in the accounts department and go, I just got a stupid question, and have the same team and the same people dealing with your queries day in and day out.
I think it's brilliant. I think as a business coach helping SMEs, I see the knots that they tie themselves in because they are trying to do the finances themselves or don't have the skill set or have hired people who it turns out don't have the skill set because they didn't know what they should be looking for when they're hiring. And so that you've got a finance team there that's scaled down or up to whatever that SME needs at the time is, and all of the skills are there in whatever proportion you need rather than trying to do something inside your own business. I think it's,
And not only that, as I say, most businesses would traditionally start with a bookkeeper. That is scaling up 101. It's a bookkeeper.
Spending far too much time doing these invoices. I need somebody to send out the invoices and check that the money's coming in. Yeah.
And if they do, as I say, manage to find a great bookkeeper, because as you say, they don't necessarily know what the skills are that are needed, the challenge then becomes, who does the bookkeeper talk to? Because a bookkeeper has bookkeepers, salt of the earth, brilliant skills, get the job done. But if that bookkeeper, if you're in a very big firm, they would go to their management accountant, or they would go to their finance director or the finance controller, and that in itself is, even although you've got a brilliant person as you're going through that startup who's doing the basics, they can end up professionally lonely because they can't go to their boss because their boss isn't versed in all the things that are finance. And again, I don't want to belittle it by calling it a sort of pick and mix scenario, but we work with lots of small businesses who are at the stage that they do have a bookkeeper. But what the bookkeeper and how we work with them is the bookkeeper then has a route into us to ask the questions. So it really does, as I say, from a sort of flow through point of view, the service and how we work with our clients is always evolving, and it's about solving that problem for them without them having to take on another skill set, because they are already sales and marketing and legal and HR and accounting. And clients do just pick up the phone and I've got a question, and it's great, we'll get the right person to speak to you about that question. So it does evolve, as I say, it's not just always us. We have some bigger clients who still say, do you know what? I don't want another staff member to monitor. And also, they also know that because we're Institute of Chartered Accountants of Scotland, so that also means we have a professional obligation to make sure that our staff are trained and kept up to date. So again, in dealing with us and with Defacto, it means that they know that all that legislation and everything that changes, and every time the budget rolls round, that somebody somewhere is picking up all the reading that needs to be done to make sure they're financially compliant.
Now, I'm really glad you've touched on that, because this is an interesting point, and a lot of business owners don't realise that to call yourself an accountant, you don't have to be registered. And I think, there's a bit of a hole there that some business owners can get themselves into, assuming that they've bought the services from somebody who is accredited in that way, and they're not necessarily.
It's an interesting one, and it is one that a lot of what we call the CAB bodies, which are the chartered or certified bodies, You can't call yourself a chartered or certified accountant unless you have the badge. You are not meant to file accounts on behalf of a business unless you are registered with HMRC under their regulations. And nowadays, a lot of bookkeepers who would come into it, maybe they've done it in practice, they set up a bookkeeping firm. I think a lot of clients don't know that if anybody's providing them with an external service, then that person who is dealing with that and payroll does actually have to be registered with HMRC under their regulation. We are under the umbrella of ICAS, so it's one less registration that we have to fill in. But yes, I do think that's somebody asked me what an accountant does. What's an accountant do? And I'm like, oh, do you have about 3 weeks? Because it's a term that can cover everything, industry, practice. It can be a bookkeeper, it could be a finance director. And somebody asked me what I do, quite simply say, I'm an accountant.
Yeah.
That's the response to the question. But it's such a broad range.
And I think that causes a challenge for business owners who don't necessarily, like you said, they come to you because they don't have the skills or the understanding themselves. And they go, oh yeah, I've got an accountant. But there are quite a range of accountants, and the level of service that an accountant provides, like, it could just be the compliance part, the lodging their accounts and telling them how much tax they've got to pay, or it could be regular management accounts and understanding what's going on and advising them on tax and advising them on various things throughout the year. And there's quite a scale there from one end to the other. And not all business owners don't understand necessarily what they're paying for and what they're not paying for. And then there becomes a challenge with the communication with their accountant. The expectations are different, yeah?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And having the badge, I worked very hard for it, and I've worked very hard to retain it, and very proud to be a member of ICAS. But yes, it sets a bar as to what's expected. Now, that's not to say that there are not a whole heap of fantastic, qualified by experience accountants out there, and some of them could outrun qualified accountants, to be perfectly honest. But it's knowing, it's like putting a job interview up. Because what you're literally doing is saying, I am looking for this person to come and help and support my business. And if you're not used to recruiting or writing the job ad, or sometimes you don't even know what you need, because a lot of the conversations we have when we're engaging with new clients, it starts with, I need help. That's generally the first one, I need help. But then what we do is we have a conversation around, actually, what does that help look like? Now, again, we have very financially astute clients who are like, I got it covered. I need the statutory accounts at the year end. We've got other clients who are like, I don't even know where to start. And sometimes building up so that the statutory accounts, actually just become the byproduct at the end. And what they really value, in working with us throughout the year, is that they're actually understanding. And you'll know this yourself, having done coaching with many businesses, that differential between I have cash in the bank and I have profit in my accounts, that can be a real big gap at certain points in time. Or on the flip side, I'm running my reports on my accounting system and it says I'm making a profit, but I've got no money to pay.
Never seen it. How can I pay that tax bill? Yeah, I've heard it. Yeah.
And as I say, working with clients to actually help them. We do it day in and day out. Profit, loss and balance sheets. They're not telephone directories. They're not just a list of numbers to us. They're stories, they're novels. I can tell when somebody's had a bad month, when the kids are on school holiday. I could look at a set of accounts and say, oh gosh, somebody's mum must be ill again. Because they're a novel to us, they tell a story. And again, I suppose what we're passionate about and what we want to do is to be in a position where we can help business owners understand that story. Because if you understand the story, it then allows you to make good judgments
can do something about it if it's not looking the way you want it.
Yeah. And if you've got good up-to-date financial information, that then is, again, going back to growth. Growth tends to come with a working capital requirement in the beginning. There has to be investment or money. It might not be necessarily money, but there has to be an investment to get it to that next stage. And by having the story that goes around your figures, then that allows you to make those sensible decisions. It allows you to understand what the cost of that scale up is actually going to entail. Is it time? Is it money? Do I need to bring somebody on full time? And if that's the case, if I'm taking on a full-time salary, how am I going to fund that? How quickly can I get to the point that the additional profits are covering that salary? And that's really where we would, with the Defacto FD function, that's what we're able to bring to businesses.
As I say to businesses, when they understand the numbers, then they can make decisions. And a lot of them don't make decisions because they don't know, and they just carry on as they are because they don't understand their numbers.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure a great big gut feel on something can,
It has its place, definitely.
It has its place and it can be successful. But if it's a brilliant gut feel and it's backed up by the numbers or the finances of your business, then I think as well that takes away a lot of the stress.
Yeah.
Because if you're doing something which is, you feel it's right in your heart, it's right in your head, but there will still be that niggling fear of what happens if we run out of cash before we're starting to make profits. What does this look like if it's more successful or not successful as we'd hoped it would be?
So that's what you do. That's, quite deep into the numbers part of businesses. Let's get very clear what Defacto FD does. Let's find out a bit more about Fiona then. So you're the founder.
I am.
Yeah. Are you a sole owner? Do you have any business partners, or has that been something on your route?
Sole owner, and I don't think it will ever change. It's we live how we serve. We want to work within the SME community. We are an SME. But I suppose my background is, you've obviously heard how I nodded my head and I set up a company. But if we take it a step slightly further, did practice, qualified, came out, worked in industry, took redundancy because the option was moving to London. And I'd spent a lot of my formative years living out in hotels and traveling for business. And I took a year out and trained as a yoga teacher.
Oh, fabulous.
And then spent a year teaching as a yoga teacher. And I decided I was going to become all lovely and zen, and that was me. And after a year, I realized that it wasn't fast-paced enough for me. But what it has done, and I do think what it carries on into what we do today, is that part of, I lived in a tent in an ashram for a month while I was training. And I think what it's taught me is the principle of karma yoga, selfless service. And from that point of view, there will be times where we will support clients beyond the services that we're currently engaged for. And we do that with a sense that it's the right thing to do. There's not always that sort of pick up the phone, all right, let me just start the clock running. And I think that fosters having this sort of karma-based philosophy to doing business and doing the right thing at the right time. I would like to think that from our clients' point of view, they see that support, not just from it's my accountant, but they actually see the people that are working with it.
I like that sort of holistic approach. There's more to the business than just the numbers, and there's more to the business owner than just the business.
Yes.
You can't untangle that, really, can you?
No, and again, not at the size of business that we have.
No.
So yes, so I am sole owner, have a team. We're just actually about to recruit a new member of staff. So the team will continue to grow, but it will grow to the size that is manageable with a single partner. And that might mean, I suppose, from a scale her up point of view, it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to be in the millions and trillions. But what it does is it means that we will selectively be able to open our books to new clients. And the beauty of that is you get to work with people who want to work with you. They see the value of you. But then as soon as I see something like that, Brenda, in 6 months' time, we'll have a fantastic opportunity to take on a new partner. It will be a 2-partner firm. And if I ever come back to speak to you, it'll be a new story. So
when the right opportunity comes in front of you, you know it and you'll grasp it.
yes, I think that's always the thing. This is where we are now. I like where we are, but I never say never when it comes to this type of thing. Some of the best decisions that I have, in hindsight, have made in my life have been because something has come completely out the blue and it's been embraced and we run with it.
So what have you learned about Fiona on your journey as an entrepreneur?
Gosh, lots. I think that the biggest thing that I've learned, and actually probably, although this, and I say later in life, because I've been qualified for 36 years now, which if you do the maths will give you an indication of my age. But I think really it's been the last probably 3 or 4 years that I just really need to believe in myself and believe that people want what they want because of the person I am, not the badge that I'm putting on, not the accountant or the ICAS or I've done this or I've done that. People want to work with people. And as long as we can demonstrate that we have the right skill set, to be able to service them. And again, probably look back. I mean, I started in practice when girls weren't allowed to wear trousers. We had to wear skirts. When partners were referred to as Mr. Nobody was on a first name basis. Now, days have obviously changed from that point in time. But I do think it was the point where women were breaking the glass ceiling. We had you could have firms where you had 20 partners and one of them was a female. So that was where it started. And I do think there's an element of when you've had that lived experience and you have broken the glass ceiling, there is sometimes a little bit of imposter syndrome.
Funny you should say that. This is coming up a lot in conversations I'm having at the moment, is that, and I hadn't thought about it from the context of we've been held back in industries where men have been at the forefront and in control. And I was thinking of it more along the lines of like women of a certain age are going, I'm just going to be me. And actually, I think maybe society is allowing us more as women to just be me and not have to put a mask on or not have to pretend to be something that we're not in order to get to the top in business or to sell or whatever.
Yeah, as I say, it's not that it wasn't available to, and I hate saying our generation, but it was a lived experience. We had to make great strides and great efforts, as I say, to present ourselves as equals.
Yeah.
Because we were all very much new to actually there being that diversity within the workplace, being able to see people, females, in those roles. And I do think from a generational point of view, maybe it's an age thing, maybe we just get to the point where we go, I don't care if people are or it's a combination of both, that the current climate allows us to blossom and to bloom and to be confident in the person that we are.
We're the first generation of women who have on paper been told that we're equal. Women couldn't have a bank account on their own within my lifetime. So, yeah.
And as I said, I think there's a lot of, and people looking to set up businesses sometimes later in life, they've done corporate, they've done something and they want to change and they want a challenge. And the beauty of being able to do that in your own way, with your own rules, it is quite liberating. And somebody I think had once asked me, would I ever be employed again? And my response was, I have lots of skills and lots of knowledge. I'm not quite sure if I'm employable, which is a really interesting concept because since setting up the business, I can be as reactive or proactive as I need to be because I get to make the decisions. And I think for that liberation that it does when you're setting up your new business, when you're taking those first steps, scary because the buck stops here, but also very liberating that it's your choice. If it goes correctly, then you celebrate that. If it doesn't go quite to plan, then okay, you sit back, you work out how you're going to do it differently next time, but you still get to choose how you move on and you move forward. So I think that's, from a business owner point of view, and a little bit about Fiona, I love being unemployable.
It's something I hear regularly, actually. Yeah. I don't think I could go back to being employed. Yeah.
I'm sure I could again, but my happily unemployable status is exactly, I get to benefit from it, my clients get to benefit from it. So it's where I like to be.
So who's been your biggest supporter? Because it's lonely at the top on your own there. What support have you had?
Lots of people in various different roles, family and friends have always been supportive. During the dark days of tax season, I have friends appearing at the door with casseroles because they know it's a busy time of year. I've had associates who I've worked with during the year who have come from many, many different walks of life. Some accountants, some not accountants. And being able to have somebody where you can, there's just that sounding board, because you're exactly right. It's needing that trusted individual who you can tell that warts and all story to. And they're not going to judge. They might not be able to help, but they'll still be there. And again, probably in the last 5, possibly post-COVID, different communities. So I go wild dipping and throw myself in cold water at least once a week. And when I say cold, as in 2 degrees, had to break the ice to get in water. I've got friends that I walk with. I have a community which is, again, female entrepreneurs who are just looking for sales focused within the community, mastermind style class, but having, again, a group of people who, until I walked in the room, I'd never met. And social media, the way we work, the way we collaborate has obviously come on leaps and bounds. We have a WhatsApp, much as I think WhatsApp can be the devil at times because it's quite insistent with its tinging.
Oh, I switched that off years ago.
We have a lovely group and a lovely forum where here's what I'm thinking. Here's my challenge for today. What do you think? And the beauty, again, if I don't think there are any gentlemen in the group. So a female-centric group of people from a variety of backgrounds with very different businesses, but in a lot of cases, the same themes running through those business. And just having that safe space as a solo owner, entrepreneur, to actually be able to say, look, this is my problem today. Because I do think, and again, we see it with clients, we sometimes become their sounding board because nobody in business people in business don't necessarily want to admit to those around them that it's maybe not going quite to plan this month. And I think within the role as accountant, because we already know the numbers, there's nothing.
There's no hiding from your accountant. So you're ideally placed to support them. Yeah.
So regardless of the Insta picture that's being put out, we're seeing the unphotoshopped version in the background. And as I say, there's always no judgment, there's always support. So, as I say, I think from a community's point of view, I would say that, yeah, community, find your tribe that is outside of work.
So I was going to come to that actually. So you mentioned the yoga, you said dipping, we call it duking up here. I'm quite enjoying that.
I studied in Aberdeen, so I can do duking.
And walking. And I was just thinking about like how important is it to have those interests outside of the business, because it can be all encompassing, can't it? You'll have seen it with your clients, that likewise mine. You can get so bogged down in it that you don't do that outside things. How important have they been for you?
Oh, extremely. I love my work. I love what I do. And if you put a set of numbers in front of me, I will happily, it's like a chocolate cake. I will just keep on going and keep on going and keep on going. And since obviously COVID, we now work. We're not in the office primarily. That in itself has presented some great opportunities for us in relation to taking on new staff, because we're no longer restricted by employees who live within X amount of miles of the business. The beauty of that is, see, we've been able to attract people to come and work with us who have our ethos that are 60 miles away from the main office. We still have the main office in Glasgow, but we're infrequently in it, and technology's been a great boom for that. So I am very guilty of just embracing the numbers and being at my desk and not leaving my desk. So I always say my dip and my swim are my non-negotiables. I probably get up earlier on a Saturday morning to go walking than I'm necessarily up for work Monday through Friday. So they are my non-negotiables, the two different groups of ladies that I do it with. But if I've put a post in saying, is anybody dipping tomorrow? I know that one person in that group will go, oh, she needs it. She needs it. So the walking and the dipping, those are my every single week. This year, as I say, I am embracing the saying yes, because again, my natural state is, oh, it's an 8 o'clock going out. I can be curled up on the couch by that point in time. So I do think it's really difficult to get the balance.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, I think the thing I have to work hardest on in the business is actually trying to create that balance. That's far harder for me than stepping in and embracing the amount of work that needs to be done. And it's even harder because I actually love what I do. I get to do my favorite hobby every single day, all day. And I'm blessed that that's my position. But yes, it can become difficult to stop doing the thing you love and actually find that little bit of balance, which isn't just the numbers.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's a brilliant reflection. Thank you, Fiona. And actually, do you know what I took from that? I want the listeners and the viewers to hear that there are some people who find business numbers like chocolate cake and they love them, because not everybody does. And if you don't think your numbers are like chocolate cake, then outsource.
Give them to me. I will happily.
Yeah.
Give them to us. We literally chocolate cake. But yeah, I get to do people, if you ask people, what's your hobby? If you retire, what are you going to do? And my brain immediately goes, numbers. Because it's my favorite hobby. So it's some form of numbers.
So what's the next step for Defacto FD then? What's the big goal coming up?
So I think at this point in time, it's about not being silent. We have been called Defacto FD since inception. We've been doing it since inception. We've never really talked about it It's almost been, from our point of view, it has been, but of course this is what we do. And I think from my point of view, it's about actually saying, look, this is our signature. This is what we do. And it's not necessarily unique, which is why I wouldn't call it a unique selling point. But it's like, this is our signature product and we want to introduce you to it. So from my point of view, that is embracing social media, embracing podcasts, embracing speaking events, which again, we've just quietly done the job in the background. And I think the next stage for Defacto FD is to actually, don't to say shout about it, but to actually put our voice out there to see if this is something that people would embrace and if people want. And I would like to think it is, because what we're doing well and we're doing successfully, we're just not necessarily shouting it from the rooftops.
And I guess that's why you said yes when I phoned you up and said, do you want to come on this podcast?
I did, after who is this strange woman who's contacted me? Well, I don't know anybody called Brenda. So yeah, it was a little bit about, as I say, from the point of view of, I keep on saying I love what I do. I think it's a brilliant signature product. I think it's invaluable to small businesses and people looking to start up. And from that point of view, why not tell people about it? There's probably, I'd hope there's lots of people out there where they have that light bulb moment and say, actually, yes, I do not like numbers and I would just like to give them to the person who does.
I know they're there. I work with them. I meet them regularly. Don't worry, they're definitely out there. Fiona, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today.
Right.
Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, letting me tell you a little bit about what we do. And now you have a lovely analogy that numbers are like chocolate cake to us.
That's fabulous. Yeah. So listen, thank you to the listeners as well for listening to Scale Her Up. If you enjoyed this episode, follow the show and leave a review. It helps more female business owners find us. Like I said, come and join the Scale Her Up Facebook community to get support, accountability and connection with other women who get it. And remember, only 1 in 3 UK entrepreneurs are female, and men are still 5 times more likely to scale their business beyond £1 million in turnover than women are. When we start and scale our businesses to the same extent as men, we'll add £250 billion to the UK economy and create millions of jobs. Ladies, you can do it, and your business can make a massive difference.